So that was 22 and a half years ago, and somehow I get to still keep doing it. Pretty awesome. So anything that you guys have questions about as far as anime or acting, I worked in a talent agency for 8 years. I've worked in commercials, film, industrials, voiceover, radio and TV, anime, a couple of video games. Whenever you guys have questions about, I've done like 250 conventions all over the US, Canada, other countries. Whatever things you guys would like to know about, I will try to answer them. If you have questions or you don't, I will just sit here and talk about stuff.
We can do that too.
Questions about the stuff? Wait,
here we go.
Here's a guy who has a question.
Nice.
It would be really interesting to me to get a sort of a detailed history of your progression in your career.
Oh!
Because, the way you sound like you jump off in some cases, basically taking opportunities as they appear.
Right.
And using it to grow your career.
Okay, so like the progression of that. Yeah. Well, you know something? When I was a kid, I had this little Sony tape recorder. I think I was about 9 years old when I got that. And that was like the opening of a whole new world for me. I was an only child, so I was very good at entertaining myself. And I would write sketches and perform the voices on my tape recorder. And if I couldn't afford to buy more tapes, then I guess I would just like record over the tapes that I already had, you know. But anyway, that was really like my original voice acting. So when I got this opportunity to actually work, that was my first paid acting job. See, I used to do theater, and for the most part, a lot of theater does not pay.
No, it does not. Not at all.
And even when you get a job in theater that pays money, it does not pay a lot of money. Can I get a hell yes?
Absolutely, for me, for sure.
Thank you. So, right, anyway, that was my background, and then I found out like, oh, what, somebody would pay me to do an acting job, so I went down, I did this audition. I was gung-ho about it, didn't know what the heck to expect or anything, because I'd never done professional voiceover before. I had no idea how to even get into that. It's like, it was something that I aspired to. I had an interest in it, but I didn't really know how to pursue it. And then just one day out of the blue, someone called me and said, hey, they're having this audition. So, on February 12th, 1994, I was the first person in Texas to be hired as an anime actor. That is a real and true fact. When we started out, we weren't, like that first year, we dubbed 2 things. The first thing was Guy Double Target in February, and then later that fall we did the Samurai Showdown, the motion picture. Thanks, popular video game. Anyway, and then, that was like 1994. We were just kind of getting started. And then 95, it started, and I guess it really all started happening. And then by 96, it was really going in full force. End of 96, beginning of 97, we started dubbing Evangelion. I can tell you, in the time I've been working in anime, the technology has really changed tremendously, what they're able to do and how quickly we can record a show has just changed dramatically. Mostly because of the technology that's improved. And I really had no idea that this was a career that you could actually have, or that I could actually have. I've continued to work in other aspects of acting, and if you'll pardon my language, a director of mine once said that all actors are whores, which is true, because it's like, my standards are very low, you have to understand. It's like when I was a little kid, I would watch TV and there'd be a commercial for like Summer's Eve douche or, Preparation H hemorrhoid cream, and I would think, oh, that's terrible, I would never do that. Now, you have to understand also that in my childhood mind, all of the people in the TV commercials legally had to use those products. That's what I thought. It's like, I felt like these people were coming on TV to proclaim, my hemorrhoids are terrible, In any case, just suffice it to say, I would do a commercial for any product whatsoever. I mean, any of them, all of them. Herpes, oh boy, would I ever. All of the commercials I would do. All commercials pay, let me just tell you, so much more money than voice acting in anime. Like pretty much everything except for maybe theater.
And it's a quick turn too. Like you do it, you're done.
Oh, you do it, you're done.
Yeah.
People ask me what I do. It's like, I am mostly unemployed. That is what I mostly do. Because as an actor, your job is like you go and do the acting job. So for voiceover, it's so much more succinct, you know. If it's a commercial voiceover or a, you know, anime or whatever, it's like, I get to the studio, I have a job. I step in the booth, blah, 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 and we're done, thank you. I open the door and walk out, and I'm unemployed. So that's how long my terms of employment are, is like as long as I'm standing in the booth, and then it's over. So.
And I think, let me go back to something you said a few minutes ago, that if you know anything about voice acting and dubbing for anime, pretty much any that you have ever seen has been dubbed in Texas. So to say that you're the very first is really, really huge, because I mean that's a huge thing for, you know, just the casual, you know, fan that they may not understand, is that
Texas is the voice acting mecca.
Right.
I mean,
Oh yes.
There is still a fair amount that's done in LA. When I started, there used to be quite a bit that was dubbed in New York. Now there's practically nothing. Another place where they used to dub a good bit of anime was North Carolina, and now that would be the goose egg. There hasn't been anime dubbed in North Carolina in years.
That's such a weird place for it. I mean,
no, it's not, because
really?
North Carolina, like Texas, is a right-to-work state.
There you go.
There's a big film and television industry in North Carolina, particularly like in the Wilmington area. If anybody remembers or has heard of a show called Dawson's Creek, that was filmed there in North Carolina. So yeah, anywhere where there's kind of like a hub of film and television, which is why like in Canada, the two big places for anime dubbing are Vancouver and Toronto. More Vancouver really than Toronto, but you know, those are the two places. So like in all of North America right now, most of the anime is dubbed either like Houston, Dallas, LA, Vancouver. Those are, for the most part, that would be about 98% of it right there.
Nice. So that's a huge thing.
I don't even know if I actually answered your question, but when something about like, you know, like the whole idea of the progression of my career, when I first started off, like no one knew what anime was. People ask me all the time, like, so were you a fan of anime before you got into anime? It's like, there wasn't anime. I mean, there was, but it's like you had to know a guy who knew a guy. This is my story that I tell people to explain how much anime there was in 1994. The first show that I worked on, Guy Double Target, when it came out, which is about, I think about August of that year, I went into a Suncoast, which used to be a big chain of video and music stores. They were in shopping malls. And so I went into this Suncoast in a shopping mall. I was so excited because I was in a real movie that you could buy in a store. So it was very exciting for me. I went into the Suncoast. They had a shelf. The shelf was about this big, okay? And on that shelf, about this much of that shelf had anime. I was gonna say DVDs, no. DVDs were not invented yet. But videotapes, and there were those big clamshell cases. There were about maybe 8 videotapes on that shelf, and the sign at the end of that shelf said, Japanimation. Japanimation. Because people did not know what anime was. It was like, barely a thing. I'm not saying there wasn't anime that existed, there was, but it was like kind of in its infancy as far as like widespread. There was not really a widespread fandom of anime in this country. That was before Sailor Moon was on TV, it was before Dragon Ball was on TV, and it was certainly before Pokemon was on TV. So it was, when I got into anime, it was right before all that stuff hit. So within a couple of years, you know, I would say to people, oh, well, you know, I'm voice acting in anime, and they would go, oh, what's that? And so my comparison, I would always say something like, well, it's like Speed Racer or Robotech. And they would go, oh, okay. And then I remember a real sort of like a flashpoint for me is I went to a convention in Seattle, and I remember I was at the airport, and I think it was 1999. And when the flight attendant was checking my boarding pass, and I was wearing an anime t-shirt, and she goes, oh, that's like Sailor Moon, right? And I thought, someone gets it, you know? So then I could say, you know, I was starting out, it was like, oh, it's like Speed Racer. And then eventually I could say, you know, it's like Sailor Moon, it's like Dragon Ball, you know? So there was some relationship to it. And now I can just say anime. And, you know, unless it's like someone who's 85 years old and who lives in a cave, people actually know what anime is. So to me, that's the biggest change. Like, people actually know what it is. And
I hope that there's not any 85-year-olds living in caves.
well, if they are,
If that describes you or someone you love, we apologize.
Yes.
It's like that little disclaimer that you see at the end of like superhero movies, where I guess
don't jump off a building.
Yeah. Well, it's like people pictured in this film are fiction.
Yeah.
So why would you have that anyway?
Yes.
So if you're living in a cage in your spare time and you're 85.
Oh no, a cave.
Oh, okay. Oh, either one.
Oh no, no
If you're-
judgment. You
Yeah.
want to live
Oh
in a
no.
cave.
That's totally. This is an anime fest.
Yeah.
Everything goes. So if that's your thing, have at it.
You know,
We're good.
it's whatever. It's
Yeah.
whatever. The other really big change is like places like this. There's a convention in Bossier City, Louisiana.
Yeah.
Okay, an anime con in Bossier frickin' City, frickin' Louisiana. I mean, holy cow, right? You know, when I started doing cons, which was in '97 was my first anime con. It's like there were only cons in sort of like major cities, and it would be like those major cities would have like one convention a year. Now, if you're in or near a big city, they'll have 2 or 3 conventions or more in a year. Gosh, I'm in Houston, I've lost track. We have at least half a dozen conventions during the course of a year. Anime cons and Comic Cons and all this stuff. So people know what conventions are, you know? People get that. So that's another really big thing. And you know, for the first many years that I was doing this, most of the shows that I was doing were not really on TV. So even though I would say to people, oh yeah, it's like Dragon Ball Z or it's like Sailor Moon, well, it wasn't because it wasn't on TV. And you know, some of the shows were on channels like the Encore Action Network or something like that. But it actually wasn't really until about 2005 that I was in a show that was on a basic cable channel, like Cartoon Network, that most people could actually watch. So to me, it was like I had been working in anime for 11 years, and finally my career was no longer imaginary, because a lot of my friends and relatives who don't really know about anime, they'd be like, oh yeah, you know, Tiffany, she's a celebrity. She does voices in cartoons, like, sure. I don't even think they thought it was real. Maybe they thought it was all a delusion that I was experiencing. But it's like, look, I am in these TV shows, and this is the channel that they're on, and you can watch them, you know, at this time, so.
Oh, honey, that's not real.
Oh, I know. But yeah, so I remember my mom telling me, she like tuned into the middle of Evangelion, and she was like, you know, I tried to watch some of that show, but I don't really get it. It's okay, Mom. It's really okay. Yes, question?
Yes, speaking of Evangelion,
Yes.
how does it feel to be, you know, arguably one of the most favorite characters from the show?
Oh, I tell you what, see, when we started working on that show, it was not some global, iconic cult phenomenon. It was just like a show that we were doing, you know? I had been working in anime for about 3 years when I started dubbing Evangelion. And so I was like, oh, this is a cool show. I got a fun character. I like this is awesome. But it's like we're doing this, we're doing other things. And I mean, I was enjoying it, but it wasn't, I didn't have the ability at the time we were doing to distinguish like, oh, this is going to make me very famous. You know, no, I didn't know. I mean, if people knew how to create something that was going to be a global phenomenon, they would do it every week, but then it would just be ordinary. So, you know, who knows what makes these things special or what they are, but I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre to be part of something that has that kind of cult status, and I'm not in the least bit delusional. I understand that Evangelion is the reason that I'm here, and the reason that I get invited to all of the, I've worked on hundreds of shows. I've done hundreds of characters, but the reason that I get invited to shows, to cons, it's Evangelion. I don't kid myself about that. I mean, I'm sure nobody's invited Shatner to events because he was TJ Hooker. Just saying.
I don't know. He was really, I'm just playing.
Yeah. Or Rescue 911.
But when you get to shows, when someone wants to ask you about this random show that you maybe even have forgotten that you did, because I know that happens with voice actors.
Occasionally.
What do you do? You're like, yeah, sure, that was me. Yeah.
You know, there are these brothers that come to a lot of the Midwest conventions that I've met several times. Older guys, probably in their 50s, and they print out these pictures of characters and get voice actors to sign them. It's their thing, which is all cool. But honest to God, they have found characters from shows, and I argue with one guy, like, what did, but I have a list. If you come on my table, you see I have a list, and on there is everything that I've ever done. Because if I didn't have a list, there is no way I could remember. And no, it is not all on DVD, no, it's not all on Anime News Network or whatever, but I have it. Anyway, but, so he's showing me the picture, like, I did not do that character. And then I looked at my own list and I'm like, oh, I did that character. So yeah.
It kind of sounds like they're playing Pokemon Go with your characters.
It's,
You're like the last piece, though, so.
yeah, it's difficult, and part of it is because we do it so fast now. It used to be like, when I was working on Evangelion, okay, we worked on that show. Now, other people worked on it for longer than I did because my character didn't come in until episode 8. But, you know, that TV show was in production for well over a year because we would do 2 episodes at a time. And the reason we did 2 episodes at a time is because that's how many episodes came out on the videotape. When the videotapes were released, you got 2 episodes. And now, what gets released is, I mean, I know most people are probably watching it online or streaming it or whatever, but the actual, like, tangible product that comes out, like the DVD set and the Blu-ray, is like 12 to 13 episodes. So we're producing that many episodes in really about the same amount of time it used to take us to do 2. So when you do it that fast, it's like, it's hard. It's really hard to keep all of that information inside of your brain. Plus the fact that my brain is very, very full now of all these hundreds of other characters that are gunking it up in there.
How do you feel about streaming anime?
As long as people are paying for it, I'm all good with people streaming anime. You know what's funny though? When I'd say like probably around like the late 90s, early 2000s, when we were producing shows, everybody would be very aware of the fact that, you know, oh man, you know, people have got these great home entertainment systems, they're going to be watching on a giant TV screen, so, you know, it's got to look really good. And now all I can think of is people are just watching it on their phone. If we didn't match the lip flaps, who cares? I'm not the director, so I'm not saying that that's the attitude, but that's in my mind now. I think about that, you know, because I do a lot of the scripted acting. It's another one of my many jobs that I do is I do script adaptations for many, many, many shows. And I think about that when I'm watching the lip flaps. I'm like, you know what? People are gonna watch this on their phone. They're not gonna be able to see the mouth anyway. But as long as people are paying for the streaming, I'm all good with that. Yeah. You? Yes, video camera guy.
Okay. You having mentioned Robotech, And according to your resume, you have worked on the dubbing of Macross.
Yes.
Yes. My question to you is, prior to when ADV Films acquired the rights to dub Megazone 2-3 and Macross, both of which have been amalgamated into the Robotech franchise, along with
Very true.
Super Dimension Cavalry, Southern Cross, and Genesis Climber Mospita.
Yes.
Was Robotech the first official localization of Macross and Megazone 2-3, or was there a pre-existing streamlined dub prior to the ADV version?
That's an excellent question. For Macross, really the only other dub was the Carl Masick, Robotech. And my husband, Matt Greenfield, he actually directed Macross, and he said people gave Carl Masick, may he rest in peace, a lot of hell over the years for, he changed Macross, he did such a terrible thing to Macross. And what Matt said when he went back and he was watching, because my husband is like an old school anime fan, he had watched Macross in Japanese before it came out as Robotech. And he said, when I went back and I watched it, I thought, he really didn't change it that much when he made Robotech. But what he picked up on was not so much, like the story wasn't really changed that much, but the way the characters were portrayed. He felt like that was what was really changed, is the attitude and the way the characters were. I mean, obviously their names were changed, I know, like Hikaru became Rick, et cetera, et cetera. But that was very cool for me, because I did watch Robotech back in the 80s, and so, working on the Macross dub is like, that was crazy. Even crazier than that for me, or at least as crazy, was Carl Masick did actually come and work for ADV for a few years. So the first time I went into the studio to record with Carl Masick, I could barely even talk. I was like, Mr. Masick, it's nice to meet you. Within a few days I was calling him Carl. My husband was making fun of me. Like, we're on a first name basis now. Isn't that nice? Anyway, I have no idea if I answered your question or not, except that no, I don't believe that there was. As far as I know, the ADV dub of localization of Macross. But Genesis Climber Mospita and Southern Cross, they have not ever been dubbed as a direct adaptation. They did get released subtitled.
Having grown up with Robotech, that's how I remember Macross.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you.
You have a killer voice, dude.
Thank you. You're the second one who said
Very
that.
distinctive.
Yes, very distinctive. I think I actually remember you from last year because of your voice.
Yes, sir.
I'm jealous. Where are we going?
This gentleman right here on the aisle.
Come on, man.
Okay. This is very comfy, by the way. Go ahead.
No, this is just a more frivolous question, but I was just wondering if you had like a favorite non-Asuka character in Ava and why.
Oh, gotta be Misato. Yeah. And why? Wow. I kind of just love her don't give a damn attitude. She's so badass, really. What a perfect chaperone for Asuka. If I was able to play any other character in the show, definitely would have been Misato for sure. And I will tell you that is the character that Amanda wanted to play. Amanda wanted to play Misato, and Matt Greenfield, who was directing the show, he told her, he's like, no, you want to be Ray, and trust me, you'll thank me for this later. She did. Make pasta.
Just kind of referring to voice acting in general.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about getting into accents and things like that?
Tricky.
I think that there has been some kind of a predilection for it, for one thing. Not everybody does accents and dialects, and not everybody does them well. And some people have certain ones that they're better at than others. I don't know, I think I got kind of a knack for dialects. I like to think I do. I've played a few characters that had to speak in other dialects. The funny thing about the whole German thing is like I had taken German in high school and college, so I was already sort of conversational in German, and then I got to play Oscar, and that was awesome. I played a few other German characters since then. If you've seen Infinite Stratos, I mean, obviously I play Laura Bodevig in the show, but I play, there's a couple of scenes in there with the Black Hair Squadron, and I am all of the members of the Black Hair Squadron, except for the leader, Clarissa, who is voiced by Shannon Emmerich, who also voices Charlotte. But they could not find anyone else who could do German accents. I had to do all the other characters. And how I do it, I don't know. I mean, I just have an ear for it. I can't really explain the technique of it. I wish I could. But.
All right, got time for a couple more questions.
Oh, is this only a half an hour panel? Oh, I did not know that. I'm all settled in here. Yeah.
No, here we go.
Yes, ma'am. My question is, do I really need to
Well, so the people in the back can hear you. Yeah.
people in the back?
It's in the front like the cool kids. Okay, question.
Yes, ma'am.
Take that next thing. What conventions do you go to where you feel you get the warmest reception from?
Oh, what conventions do I go to where I feel like I get the warmest reception? Yeah, I feel like I get a pretty warm reception everywhere. Fans are nice, and pretty much, I mean, everywhere I go, people are so nice to me. For me, kind of the most surreal experience that I get is when I do conventions in Australia. Australia is the only place besides Japan where Evangelion ran on regular television. So here at conventions, usually when I meet people, they'll say, oh, Dragon Ball was my first anime, or Robotech, or Sailor Moon, or Pokemon, something that was on TV, in other words, Naruto, Bleach, whatever, that was their first. My experience most of the time in Australia is, Evangelion was my first anime. It was their gateway. So it's really different when it was their gateway show. When they came home after school and they watched Evangelion on TV. So while I would say that I get a nice warm reception everywhere, Australia is special just because it has a different place for them. It's iconic in a different way down there. Although what's funny is it's now been a long time since that came on TV. And the last convention I did in Australia, a young guy, a young teenager actually said to me, that was on television. I was like, oh yeah, it was. A long time ago. Thank you.
Maybe you remember what TV is, young person.
Yes, television. It's that big box in your parents' living room.
What that your flat screen sits on top of.
Yeah,
That's how my parents did because they're ancient. So how do you feel about that? You know, like you go from the United States to an entirely different continent where, you know, like the roles are reversed, where it's not Pokemon, it's not Dragon Ball. You know, this is a series that ran on television. You know, do you sort of favor those people more because of that?
Yes, you people suck. No,
yes.
No, not at all. No, it's just weird. It was very weird for me the first couple of times I went down there, and as you might imagine, when I've been there several times. And that's the reason that I've been there. It's like I was yelling, and for them, it's a big deal. So it is weird. I mean, I've done a lot of other shows that people in Australia and other places are familiar with, so that is a good thing. But yeah, it's weird to be in that show for them, because I thought, when I went down there, I thought, oh my gosh, this is what all those Dragon Ball people feel like at cons in the US. Now I get it. It's just a different, viewing it through a different lens, kind of.
Question.
Anybody got some last questions?
Here. Oh, that's so perfect.
No.
What would you say is the hardest thing about being a voice actor?
Hardest thing about being a voice actor. I don't know if it's hard per se, but I think a lot of people would find like the aspect that it's solitary, that you're not acting with other people. Perhaps that would be it. I mean, I've gotten really used to that over the years, but
that has its advantages, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of how it's done, but it's like the hardest part of it. I don't know. I mean, because to me, I love it. I find it very enjoyable. There are so many things about it that I think are really great and really not hard. I mean, I don't have to get dressed up. I look exactly like this when I go into voice act. I don't have to wear anything fancy. I don't have to wear a suit. I don't have to wear heels. If I don't want to wear makeup, I don't have to do that. No one cares. I do not go in my pajamas. Okay, for the love of God, I do wear actual clothes. But no, it's very comfy. It's very, very comfy. I think it's great. To me, I think the idea that you can go in and since no one can actually see your physicality, you have the opportunity as a voice actor to be so many different things, which I just think is great. And one of my absolute favorite things is getting to play any kind of critter, any sort of animal or creature or alien or just any kind of what's it, who's it creature whatsoever is fantastic. I can't say what it is, but I just got to do this really amazing, weird creature thing the other day. That was awesome. So weird. I can't even describe to you what it is, because if I did, then you might know what it was, but it was very weird.
And it gives you a certain level of anonymity, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I guess that's probably a cool thing is, I don't get mobbed going to the grocery store.
Right.
Or anything like that.
I know a lot of voice actors and actresses, and like Tom Kenny, for instance, he told me once, he said, the best thing I think about it is I get to do this thing that I love. And Tom works a lot. He's the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants,
Yeah.
and probably about 50 billion other things.
Sure.
And he enjoys the fact that he can stand in line in Starbucks, and he's just a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a very iconic voice, but he's just a guy.
Right.
And I think for me, if that was a career direction I would want to go in, that's probably the way that I would go.
Yeah.
Just simply for that. Although you don't get the interaction with other actors and actresses.
Yeah, I usually don't get to interact. And sometimes on commercials, there are other actors are there. A lot of times they will be. Once on a very, very rare occasion, you might work with another actor in anime. But
what is the weirdest commercial you've ever done?
Weirdest commercial? That is hard to say. I did a Pizza Hut commercial many years ago, radio commercial, and I don't know if this is weird or not weird. I'm super lactose intolerant, and the other guy was doing the commercial with. He says, "Do you like cheese?" And I had to say, "Duh." And I said, "I do not like cheese," but I did not tell the people at Pizza Hut. As far as I know, I love cheese. Duh. I don't know what the weirdest thing is. There was a commercial I did for a Mercedes dealership in Houston where I actually did 2 different voices in the same commercial.
What?
Yeah, it was supposed to be like, how diverse Houston is and how there are so many different aspects of the city. It's a big city and there are a lot of different things, and there's like, arts and culture, and then that was me saying, "Wherefore art thou, Romeo?" Something like that. And then you hear like a bell ringing, like someone's coming into a store, and then it was me going, "How y'all doing today?" So I did 2 different voices in the same commercial. I don't know if that's weird. It is a little weird though. Well, it wasn't time. I mean, they were not together. They were in very different places in the commercial.
Rats.
And I was not.
It would have been cool if you had to have a conversation with yourself.
I've done that in anime. I have had conversations with myself in anime. I think the weirdest voice that maybe I ever did, and it was not a commercial, it was a sort of like a training film type thing for Baker Hughes, which is an oilfield services company. I did the voice. No, I was on camera actually. I was an Indian lady, and I mean, like from India. I was Indian.
What?
I know. I think it's embarrassing, but I was a blue hologram, so I was like, oh God, please don't put makeup on me. It's like, I'm doing essentially blackface almost. It was like really, like, I don't know why she had to be Indian. I did the audition. They had actual Indian people, and all I can think is they must have been really terrible. Because I thought, you know, could I be like Scottish or something, or German? I don't know, something else. So to me, I think that's the weirdest thing that I ever did because it was on camera.
That's really strange.
I know. I was reading a teleprompter. It was all a bunch of technical oil field mumbo jumbo.
Huh. Well, now you can be a politician. There you go. I'm sure that probably qualifies you to run for
Yes,
office.
a bunch of mumbo jumbo that I could read off a teleprompter.
Oil fields.
After they hired me for the job, and I'm sitting there on the set, then they asked me if I could do it without my glasses. I'm like, no, I cannot. I cannot read that. Like, what if we make it bigger? You cannot make it big enough for me to read it. This is what I look like. This was the face that you hired. Thank you.
Questions? Yes?
Big pasta.
What is the weirdest thing that fans ever asked you to sign?
Weirdest thing, I'm gonna go with arm, because he had a tattoo of Oscar on his arm, and I signed his arm, and he had my signature tattooed onto his arm.
That's
So I'm gonna say that was a surprise. Other than that, I did sign someone's parole card.
Whoa.
I did. Okay, look, that was in Dallas. So if that tells you everything you need to know, it was in Dallas.
We don't need an explanation then. That's
Yeah.
pretty self-explanatory. No, what on earth?
I met that guy again later. Now you have to understand, I go to a lot of conventions and meet a lot of people, and the guy was like, yeah, Miss Grant, I don't know if you'll remember me, and I started to say, oh no, honey, I'm sorry. But he finished the sentence, you signed my parole card. I said, oh yes, I do remember. Yes, I remember that.
What was it for?
Oh, I have no idea.
I would have looked at it.
No, I don't need to know that information. I don't even know if that was on there. Well, first I was concerned that this might be illegal or something, you know, signing. But then I thought, oh, what the hell? I'm not the one who's going to get in trouble. I'm sure I'll sign it.
So can I get you to sign this? And my name is right here.
He was a young guy too. He was like 20 or something.
It's like, can I have your phone number so when they call, you're my mom? Yeah, he's just in a little trouble every now and then. It's fine. A parole card. People are strange.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
I've always been really curious, given the relationship between manga and anime, the writers, the artists, the directors on both sides.
Oh, yeah.
And the cons, the fact that people are actually like going back and forth between countries, like you described. Is there any, have there ever been opportunities for you guys to hang out with each other? I mean, like the Japanese animators, the art, you know, the guys who did cells, the whole bit.
Yeah, I met, over the years, many conventions that I've done. I've been at several conventions with some of the Japanese artists, mangaka, actors, directors. I've met a lot of different people. One instance, this was, gosh, about 5 years ago, I got to meet Daisuke Murayama, who's the mangaka for Chrono Crusade. And I'm sure he's done other stuff, but that's what I know him from. Anyway, I worked on the anime for Chrono Crusade, and I played, hold on to your hats, the German character. Anyway, but when I met him, he was really excited to know that the voice in English, that I could actually speak German. So he was really excited about that. But I have gotten the opportunity to actually become quite good friends with Yuko Miyamura. She's the original voice actor for Asuka, and we're going to be hanging out.
That's awesome.
We're going to be hanging out just a few weeks down in Melbourne, Australia. So I'm looking forward to that. And two Oscars together, what can be more fun? It's really great. See, I'm just very obnoxious. And when she met me, right away she said, I can see why they cast you to play Asuka. Now she, on the other hand, is just a very genuinely sweet, nice person who happens to be a great actor. And I am genuinely obnoxious. So there you go.
Oh, I'll not make a comment about that.
That's okay.
That's not very common that, both sets of actors get together. That's really
No, it's pretty unusual. I mean, there have been some instances of some of the American actors, I think, meeting their counterparts. I'm probably the only one who's actually had dinner at their counterpart's house, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know of one that is a very famous one that is like, I won't call his name, but he's Goku, and I think at a panel that I did for him, someone asked him how he felt about the other actor, and I think he felt that his voice was more superior. So that's, I've not seen too much of that, but I've not seen a whole lot of getting together, which is, that's just really cool. I mean, for the fans, I'm sure that's amazing.
I've gotten to, those are not some of the other ones, there's Shinichi Watanabe, he goes by the name Nabashi, he directed the Wallflower, Cell Saga, Kuni Kuni Poime, Icon Brothers. He is batshit crazy. Like legitimately bonkers, but anyway, he's awesome. He's super funny. I don't know if any of you guys have ever met him or seen him at a convention. He has an afro and he dresses like Lupin the Third all the time, and he always puts himself as a character in his own shows. But the first time I met him was at Anime Central back in 2007, and since, like I said, he puts himself into his shows, in Cell Saga, his character, he put his wedding in the anime, okay? And I played his wife, Kumi Kumi. Now, in real life, his wife is a lady called Kumi Kumi. So I met him and I introduced myself to him by telling him that I'm his wife, Kumi Kumi. So that was pretty cool. We, not just the two of us, but a bunch of us hung out together. We went down to NASA together in Houston. That was pretty fun. He wanted us to ask, we're Johnson Space Center, he wanted us to go and ask someone at NASA if they could beam all of his anime shows to the International Space Station. We said we thought we'd better not ask someone that.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
But it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed getting to meet all of those guys. And to be honest, I will tell you something. It's changed obviously over the years, but for the most part, they are absolutely blown away that all of you guys watch this stuff, especially if you do watch it in Japanese. That blows their minds. I mean, they're making it for the audience there in Japan, and the fact that anybody not in Japan is watching it, that is like, what? Cool. They're all about it. So. They don't care if you watch it in English. They don't think you're offending them if you want to watch it in English or Portuguese or German or whatever. They don't care.
Because it's still their work.
It's still their work. Yeah. We did, Nabashi came to some screenings we did of his shows, and of course we were screening them in English, but he thought they were great because everybody laughed at the right places. So as far as he was concerned, we did a good job.
Awesome. Do you do social media?
I'm so weird. No, I just have a website. When people email me and then I actually answer them, I cannot do social media. There's too much drama, you guys.
Oh, there's a lot.
I don't want to look at your Facebook posts of your baby and read about your horrible political opinions. I don't want to know about all that stuff. That is way too divisive. Just email me stuff and I will answer.
Well, what's your website?
TiffanyGrant.net.
All right. Let's give Miss Tiffany Grant a big round of applause. Make sure you go out those doors into the main hall and turn left and visit her at her table.
And I will be there.
Thank you.